try to work in some, got it. Like she said, I did try to work in some questions, though not explicitly. I think I'm going to kind of indirectly answer some of them. I'm just going to go through the list at the end and make sure I hit all of them, just to make sure no one gets the question left out. But anyway, yes, this is the lunch crunch. This is not going to be anything super deep or heavy. It's also not going to be anything probably extraordinary. It's going to focus a lot around how you can build like really well-balanced meals, some quick and convenient options. There's going to be some recipes, some like good advice, some good ideas for things. And I'm hoping that what y'all will be able to get out of it is just a good framework for how to structure your meals, and just a bit of simplification of how to go about things so that stuff doesn't have to be so complicated. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So it's fun to discuss kind of what are just the benefits to preparing and focusing on your lunch. Like, why do it in the first place? It does give you quite a good opportunity to be mindful and honestly a little more intentional about specific things. Like you might have a specific health goal, maybe it's a weight goal, maybe it's managing a medical condition, might have specific financial goals. We all know that eating out is expensive. To focus on your own self-care. You know, oftentimes lunch just gets like abandoned because we're super busy. We forget to eat. We skip lunch. Being able to bring some concerted focus into lunchtime can have a lot of positive ramifications. Gives an opportunity to practice, to put those skills into practice for creating your balanced meals, for like exploring different foods, diversifying and honing in on things that you enjoy eating, that you like, that you can make for your lunches moving forward. The more you repeat any sort of habit, the better you get at with the details that go into it. Gives you an opportunity to practice creating those practical changes for yourself and just overall developing positive habits. So I know we're just talking about lunch, but lunch is like the middle of the day. A big important meal. If you're going from breakfast to dinner, you're probably irritated, you're probably frustrated, you're probably hangry by the time you get home. So I want us to eat lunch. That's definitely the overarching theme here. Is like, please eat lunch, because it's a lot of positive outcomes from that. But we can also save a ton of money by eating lunch too. Granted, you spend money to get stuff even if you make lunch. But if you don't have lunch, you want to eat lunch, you probably have to go out to eat. That's expensive, as I mentioned. This allows you to save up. It can help you resist inflation, which has been nuts, although it has come down to about 4.1% in case anyone was curious, year over year. This helps you meet other financial goals you might have in place. You know, maybe you're finding yourself spending like $10 a day eating out. That adds up to a good like, $200 a month. Maybe you have a big financial goal for like, I don't know, getting some new furniture for your house, or maybe just even something fun like a piece of clothing you've had your eye on that you're like, oh, that'd be really nice to have it, but can't quite afford it. Shifting over from eating out to making stuff at home can help you treat yourself on occasion. So money is a big part of this too. And here's a quick example. We can go out to Panera Bread, grab a turkey deli sandwich, which maybe isn't $9.69 anymore. Maybe it's like 12 or 13 bucks. Versus if we make it at home, we can save a good bit of money. Quick example, this would apply to pretty much anything we can make at home. There was a question I remember that did talk about what are some good like options if you're kind of on a budget. So I kind of took that to a bit of an extreme, and I thought, okay, what if we're kind of on a like super shoestring budget? What would be the things I would recommend? It's kind of a longer list as you might expect. I was kind of going for things that are just simple. They would require time to prepare, of course, but they're relatively cheap. So like brown rice, for example, you can get a 2-pound bag of that for like $1.50. My idea of prices is not as perfect anymore because of inflation. Things have gone up. Whole wheat bread, still, I think if you get like the cheaper version, like HEB brands, about $1.50. Whole grain pasta on average is about $1.52 for a 1-pound box. Rolled oats, you can get the big Quaker oats for about $3.50 or so. So all of these, note eggs, I put a big asterisk by because those have been all over the place, although I think it's kind of settling out now. Options like peanut butter, vegetable oils, certain seeds are on the cheaper side of things like per unit. And also this is bearing in mind that maybe you might start a week with, let's say you just had like, for just like $30, $35. You're not going to be able to get everything on this list for $35. But the idea is that you could get enough from each category to put meals together. And then with your $35, if you have that again the next week, you could build up your pantry staples. And often just like having those basic things on hand and available makes a huge difference in, one, your motivation to do it and your ability to do it. Because if it's there, you don't have to find more time to go grocery shopping to get the things you need to make the meals you want. With this list, I decided to kind of make some recipes out of them using the same categorized items. So you'll see the boxes appear, kind of just quick, easy meals to throw together. Like some whole wheat bread, scramble up a couple of eggs, make a bit of a sandwich, throw some mayo on it, maybe a couple of veggies. Same thing with rice and beans, rice and lentils. You can cook down some with a little bit of oil to get some fat content in there, mix in some cheap veggies. So just kind of, meals don't have to be like a big, wonderful culinary experience every time. Sometimes you just need to feed yourself. And because oftentimes, like, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I take a working lunch and I'm not really focused on what I'm eating anyway. I just know I need food. So it doesn't have to be like the most delicious and amazing thing in the world. But sometimes it just needs to be simple and cheap. And that's kind of what a lot of these would add up to. Rolled oats and milk and peanut butter, kind of a heartier version of oatmeal. Note that one does not include a vegetable. Not every meal needs to have a vegetable. Ideally, that'd be great. But just an example that, not every meal has to have a vegetable in it. Now, you're probably wondering, what is the deal with all of these different sections? We got carbs, we got protein, we got fat, we got non-starchy veggies. So that's very intentional, and this is a big takeaway that I want you guys to get from this. Carbs, protein, and fat, these are our macronutrients. These are the nutrients that produce calories and give us energy. They all have a different function in the body. Carbs primarily function as an energy source for the body. Protein are the building blocks for the bodies, like everything we are protein. Fat plays more niche roles, hormone production, skin health, brain health, cell wall integrity, lots of different fun stuff. And dietarily, they have impacts too. Fat holds contents in the stomach a little longer, so it kind of slows down digestion a bit. Protein takes a long time to digest, so that helps with satiety because it keeps you feeling fuller longer. And then our non-starchy vegetables, while they are low calorie, they are high in vitamins and minerals and high in fiber. Together, this is a very powerful combination because by having some carbs, some protein, some fat, and some veggies all together in every meal, it maximizes satiety. Because carbs, especially when we're choosing those higher water, fiber, and protein containing carbs, those really filling carbohydrates, those give us longer lasting energy. Like I said, protein is very filling. Fat delays digestion too, but our body needs all of these components throughout the day. So providing all of them together helps maximize satiety and leads to a bit more consistent energy across the day as well. And because with certain focus on like leaner proteins, more whole grain carbs and unsaturated fats, and having more vegetables on your plate, it can make energy intake a little easier to manage because kind of by default, those types of combinations are just going to be a little lower calorie. So if you have a weight loss goal or a weight management goal in mind, and this particular combination can make it easier to work towards that goal too. So you're going to see this pattern come up a lot: carbs, protein, fat, veggies. So let's talk about lunchbox, lunch bag, bag lunch, I don't know, whatever you put your lunch in. So here's kind of a quick categorical for each of the macronutrients. For carbs, we've got breads, we've got pastas. Ideally, wanting to focus on those 100% whole grain or whole wheat varieties for their higher fiber, higher protein content. Our starchy vegetables, potatoes, peas, and corn. Yes, nothing wrong with those. Very high water content, good moderate fiber content, lower on the protein, but that's not a big deal because they're still a solid carbohydrate source. Rice, barley, quinoa, and other whole grains, beans and lentils, all of our beans, whether garbanzo, kidney, black, pinto, navy, whatever bean you like, great choice for a carb. Tortillas, corn flour, the mix of the two. I know HEB makes that mixla tortillas that are actually quite good. And all of our fruits. So whatever fruit you like, Doesn't matter if it's like a banana or if it's a dragon fruit, those are expensive. Any fruit you like totally works for a good carb source. Protein sources, just some ideas here. We got like all of our meats, grilled chicken, turkey, ham. These are kind of some leaner protein options. And our leaner protein options are going to be naturally lower fat. So if you have a weight management goal in mind, like that can help save you some calories there because you're getting just more protein as opposed to protein plus fat, because you can choose other things to add as your fat source without kind of doubling up, if you will. For fat, we've got all your nuts and seeds, any kind that you like. Of course, if you're allergic to something, don't eat it. Nut butters, salad dressings, avocados, olives, and mayo. These are specifically good sources of unsaturated fat. And you'll notice these are listed almost exclusively. You don't notice butter or creams on here. Those are higher sources of saturated fat. Kind of by default, I and other dietitians just list the unsaturated fat stuff because those are the types of fats that help lower cholesterol when replacing saturated fats for them. So butters and creams and other high saturated fat foods can increase cholesterol. So these are the types of fats listed that with the swap can actually help you reduce cholesterol if you happen to have high cholesterol. And then there's a list of some non-starchy vegetables. This is, when people tell you eat the rainbow, they're kind of talking about the non-starchy vegetables here, because this is all of the colorful stuff, the green, the purple, the red, the orange, the yellow, the white. And again, our combination carbs, protein, fat, veggies, you could theoretically take one from each of these categories and toss them all together in a way that actually looks pretty or doesn't. Either way, would still function just fine as a meal. Do you want to talk briefly about enhancing your food? Because I know looking at this list, it could be like, well, that could all probably taste pretty boring. And there's so many ways you can make your food taste great. One, salt. Please salt your food. Of course, if you have high blood pressure or hypertension or some kind of heart issues that necessitates reducing salt, be mindful of that. This is very much meant to be general advice, and generally salting your food makes it taste better. Salt your pasta water. Spices and herbs, stuff like rosemary, thyme, oregano, cumin, paprika, curry powder, all these sorts of things that if you buy them in bulk are actually super, super cheap, add a ton of flavor to your food. And if your food doesn't taste good, you're not gonna enjoy it. So please, 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 I beg of everyone, utilize like mustards and vinegars and all of these wonderful like 0-calorie ways to enhance and add flavor to your food. Preparation methods also make a big difference. If you have an air fryer, utilize that, because these different ways of like applying heat can coax out different flavors of even the simplest kind of foods. And so keep these elements in mind. We talk a lot about like the specific foods that might be on the plate, but often how to season and spice and enhance the flavor is not talked about. So I just wanted to toss that in there so it doesn't get left out. Now, a quick little side on carbs, since I know carbs are like on everyone's minds these days. There's a bit of a spectrum on carbs because we have technology to do lots of wonderful things to them. Carbs, when they kind of come off the trees out of ground and such, they're filled with a lot of satiating elements. They have a lot of water content, a lot of fiber content, a lot of protein content. Water and fiber are both 0-calorie. Water is water. Fiber is actually a type of carbohydrate, but we're not capable of digesting it because we don't have the enzymes to do it. So what it does instead is it kind of helps move things along, keeps us regular, makes the poops a lot easier and more enjoyable. Also serves as a prebiotic to feed our gut microbiota, so it can actually improve gut health. And protein, while containing calories, is very satiating because of protein, just because of the way it's structured and the way it's broken down, takes a long time to digest, so it just keeps you feeling fuller a little longer. By choosing the types of carbs that are higher in water content, higher in fiber content, and higher in protein content, they naturally digest a lot more slowly, and that translates into longer lasting energy, less extremes with blood sugars. Because if our blood sugar goes high really fast and then it comes down really fast, that's where we get these ups and downs with energy, where we're like, I feel good, and now I'm super, super tired. We focus more on these slower digesting carbs and pairing them with our proteins and fats, we can get more consistent energy over the day and potentially avoid those slumps. This is essentially what I just said. I just forgot that I needed to move on to the next part. Yes, so we want to choose carbs with the most water, fiber, and protein content, and those include our 100% whole wheat and whole grain flour-based items. So anything made from flour, try to find a 100% whole wheat, whole grain, because those are higher fiber, higher protein. And all of our whole food carbohydrate sources. So your whole fruits, beans and lentils again, whole grains, starchy vegetables, which include potatoes, corn, peas, certain squashes, plantains, if you like Caribbean flavored things. Lots of good options out there. So don't be afraid of your carbs. They can do a lot to help you feel full and get a lot better energy going. I think there was a question also about vegetarian friendly options. So I thought I'd throw in a similar layout here, but vegetarian friendly. You note I colored some in the carbohydrate and in the fat area, and I highlighted those specifically because if we're talking about more of a plant-based diet that avoids meat, or maybe the meat is just really low in your particular dietary intake, I wanted to highlight that there is actually moderate protein in all of these items that are highlighted. Our whole wheat breads and pastas, moderate amount of protein. You know, if you're talking whole wheat, one slice is going to be about 5, maybe 6 grams of protein. You know, so between 2 slices in a sandwich, that's already 10 to 12 grams of protein. I think that's a pretty significant amount. So with vegetarians that I work with, I always tell them, don't ignore the protein in all the other foods that you're consuming. Nuts and seeds have a moderate amount of protein, same with nut butter. So it doesn't just have to be a meat product. So I did want to highlight and give some other options for plant-based protein. Tofu, tempeh. Tempeh is a fun one if you've never heard of it. It's a soy-based product, but it's much thicker and firmer than tofu, and you can essentially use it as a substitute for like ground beef. It crumbles really well, it picks up flavor really well. That's a fun one. Seitan is a wheat-based product. Not okay if you're gluten sensitive or celiac, because it's just straight wheat. Edamame, or it's soybeans. So wanted to include that, and also a quick list for the vegans that may or may not be in the house of what is available to them as well. Basically, notice the protein section is mostly the one that changes. We just eliminate those animal-based products like eggs, etc., and we just leave the plant-based sources of protein. So here I wanted to highlight, while we have carbs, protein, fat, and veggies, it doesn't have to be these like single individual things. We have to be like, okay, well, here's my carb, put it in the bowl. Here's this, put it in the bowl. These can totally function as recipes. So I wanted to provide a couple of recipes and look at them just so you can see what this principle looks like in practice. These are recipes that are found on our JTA website. So you can totally go there and just peruse a collection of stuff. But this is our one pot pasta primavera with shrimp. Oftentimes with my clients, I like to go through recipes and kind of highlight how this principle works out, where we see we have penne pasta. Doesn't specify whole wheat. That would be the recommendation, 100% whole wheat, so we get more fiber, more protein. You know, we've got salts, so we're seasoning our food so it tastes good. We've got some veggies, pepper, veggies, lots of veggies, shrimp, so we see our protein. And so recipes, wonderful way to just get all this done in one fell swoop. Once you kind of get a little more familiar with the whole carb, what is a carb, what is a protein, what is a fat, you can look through different things and see how that principle is working out, and see, is this recipe nice and balanced? Is it not? All of these ones that I have included, of course, are, as are the majority of the ones that we have on the website. So if you go back and look at the recording, you can catch the names of these. If you go and just search on our website, you can pull them up. Just wanted to put those there so you have not only an idea of how the principle applies, but some recipes you might be able to try out. A quick pop quiz. I realize this is probably not the most practical way to be doing this. Just think about it with me. Think about what macronutrients are present here. We're looking at a bowl of lettuce with some cheese and some dressing. And would this be considered a well-balanced meal? Jeopardy theme, Jeopardy theme. So if you're thinking about what we're missing, think about it now. The answer would be we have some non-starchy vegetables with the lettuce. We have some fat content with the dressing. Or you can make an argument that's a tiny little bit of protein with the cheese, but not enough to really qualify as a well-balanced meal. The answer would be no, not a well-balanced meal. We're missing protein and we're missing carbohydrates. This is something I see very, very often when salads are discussed. Often it's just a salad of non-starchy veggies, and that makes me sad because there's no calories in that, which means you're going to be full for maybe 20, 30 minutes, and then you're going to be starving because you had a lot of fiber, but you didn't have enough calories. So with salads, we want to make sure we build salads of substance. Have a good protein source on there, like some grilled chicken. Include a carb. It could be some fruit. It could be a grain. Dressing always counts as a good fat source. So just making sure we have salads that are of substance so that they will really satisfy you. Again, for the veggie lovers out there, we have a couple of our plant-based options out here. Granted, soup is probably not the best idea for right now. It's 102 degrees outside. So that was probably my fault. My apologies. This one would be better. The Tex-Mex pasta salad. It's a good mix of fun stuff. Got some pasta, some black beans, some avocado. Looks really pretty. I've actually made this one before. Delicious. Highly recommend. I did put an asterisk here by egg roll in a bowl. That one actually does have beef, but I wanted to use that as an example of where tempeh in particular could be substituted in for ground beef. So let's talk about some quick and convenient things. Quick and convenient frozen options. I do understand not all of us can make our own our food or necessarily have time to do so. Sometimes you just need something you can throw in the microwave and like call it done. Healthy Choice Power Bowls are the personal recommendation I make a lot of times, actually quite regularly. I personally have like 5 of these in my freezer pretty much at all times for those days when I'm just like, not today. They're very well balanced. Good sources like good lean proteins, good veggies, just solid. Like I've been very impressed actually by them because for frozen meals, you usually don't, they're tough because they tend to be too low calories. They function, a lot of the frozen meals function more as like snacks rather than like full meals. The Power Bowls are nice because they're higher calorie content and about 280 to 320. They're easily modifiable if one is not enough for you. It's easy to just like throw a bit of extra stuff on there, like throw some beans on there, like throw some extra chicken you might have on hand and just kind of pump it up a bit. But as a standalone item, great recommendation. And the Meal Simples by H-E-B, kind of depends on which one you're looking at, but those can be a good option to just have some stuff that you could take to work with you, throw in the microwave, be like, yay, got lunch done. Some other quick convenient options that while they're single items, you kind of just add water, just add macros. We're talking like rotisserie chicken, a couple of different ideas you can do with that. You can of course make a chicken salad. You can make a quesadilla. You can implement it into a salad. I guess sometimes working from a single ingredient can help kind of animate what the rest of the meal might be. It's like, okay, I've got this rotisserie chicken. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to do much to prepare it. It's already done. You can incorporate it a lot of different ways. Same with our tuna and salmon packets. You already got that prepared. Oftentimes they come flavored, so that's an easy way to kind of just skip the needing to flavor your food kind of aspect. They work well like on whole grain crackers with some mayo or maybe like some sliced avocado. You could also put that as part of the salad too. Just to show a couple of other ideas, vegetables, sometimes those are just hard because there's a lot of choppy that has to be done to get them prepared. Utilize the frozen stuff. If you already have kind of a meal that's in place and you're like, this probably needs a vegetable to be like a little more well-balanced, or just if you have like a weight loss goal in mind and you need to keep your calories down, adding the non-starchy vegetables can really fill that gap to help you feel nice and full. Frozen steamed vegetables that you can just throw in the microwave and steam work perfectly fine. And if we're talking like canned versus fresh versus frozen, it literally does not matter. All are perfectly fine choices to make. They all retain all of their nutrients. Often frozen stuff is usually picked at the peak of ripeness, so it might be even a little more nutrient dense than even the fresh stuff. But regardless of the format, they're all excellent sources to get your vegetables and even fruits. Some things too, like the little H-E-B sauce things might come with a veggie and a carb, so you can just add a couple other things to it, just to kind of save some time and make assembling meals a little quicker. A couple of quick recipes here. The pre-made salads can be a lifesaver. I put this link here as an example because H-E-B has some of those, these little salad kits here, like the cracked pepper Caesar, the Tuscan herb. These are fantastic because, like our example before, the little pop quiz, like we have vegetables and we have dressing, so we have veggies and we have fat, but we need a protein and a carb. These can really go a long way to making assembling a salad really easy because you just dump it in a bowl as is, add some like rotisserie chicken, maybe add some beans, and boom, you got a meal. And it takes you like 5 minutes to assemble. So those little pre-made salad kits can be a lifesaver sometimes. Something as simple as a baked potato, serve it alongside like maybe if you have a cafeteria somewhere that has some things, you can pair it up with protein and you got a quick meal there. Sandwiches are so easy. Put some lean meat, pack it with some veggies, mayo, excellent fat source. I know sometimes that surprises people, but it's a good unsaturated fat source. You can totally use that. You can put some sliced avocado on a sandwich for a good fat source as well. Sandwiches are portable, they're simple, they're quick. It is totally okay to kind of put boundaries on what you will even allow yourself for lunch as far as like, is it a salad? Is it a burger? Is it a taco? Is it a sandwich? Because it's okay to do that kind of repetition. It's like if sandwiches are your jam and you can change up your sandwich and be happy with it, do sandwiches for lunch. You can make them really balanced. Sometimes avoiding the temptations of variety, if we can reduce our options, sometimes it makes it easier because it makes it easier to focus without getting lost on like, oh, what about this? Or what about this? Or what about that? As far as equipment, maybe you're meal prepping something at home and you want something, just put it in and take it to where it's not all just like mushed together. If it's not necessarily a recipe where everything is mixed, maybe you want to keep some stuff separate. Bento boxes make a really good option. Here's some brand names that you could look into. Of course, if you don't mind everything being all mixed together, if that's how the recipe is, even those little like Pyrex bowls, like the glass ones or plastic ones work perfectly fine. Standard Tupperware. Just some easy ideas for transportation. And briefly, let's talk about snacks. Because sometimes we might, I mentioned before, sometimes we might go from breakfast to dinner and just not eat anything in between. And oftentimes, like snacking has a bit of a stigma with it. We might argue like, oh, it's going to ruin your appetite for your meal, or it's just like, oh, it's just an extra opportunity for you to eat food that you shouldn't be eating, or that it's unhealthy, or that if you snack on stuff, it's going to make you gain weight. And there's actually a lot of really good reasons to snack. One, to maintain energy, which that's actually, I think, third one down the list. I'll just go down the list here. It can help prevent overeating. Snacking between meals, depending on like when it happens, if we have breakfast at like 7 and then lunch isn't going to be until noon, it would be beneficial to have a snack around 10 or 10:30 because we tend to get hungry about every 3 hours or so, not necessarily for a full meal, but for something. We get a little peckish. Having a snack at that time, depending on what might be available to you at lunch, could help prevent overeating, or perhaps an afternoon snack if you tend to like overdo it at dinner because you haven't had a lot in between. If you have a snack in the mid-afternoon, that could help moderate the amount that you serve yourself at dinner and prevent overeating in that regards. For cravings, I hear a lot sometimes about like cravings for sweets and cravings for carbohydrates. A lot of times that ties into not having a consistent intake of food. Our bodies kind of naturally know, well, carbs are energy. Fast carbs like candy or donuts and stuff like that, fast energy. If I eat this, it's going to make me feel better fast. And so we can sometimes crave those when we're just really, we're looking for food, we're looking for energy, and it's because we're hungry. Having snacks can actually help mitigate some of those cravings because you're not so hungry. If you're focused on a snack that's a little higher protein intake has been shown to kind of help moderate cravings as well a little bit. Stabilization of blood sugars, consistent intake of food, especially with carbs that are slower digesting, keeps blood sugars more around the same level. So there's not this consistent like up and then faster drop. So that can keep things more stable in that way. Along with blood sugars being more stable, because kind of where your blood sugars are is where your energy is too. So if those are more stable, your energy is more consistent. And it just helps you stay focused because if you're hangry, you're not focused. So snacking, very wonderful thing, highly encourage it. And as far as snack options, glad you asked. Carbs, protein, fat, we can't necessarily get all of them into a snack because snacks are by their very nature smaller. So having at least a source of carbohydrates paired with a protein or a fat. So that's why this is a bit more of a condensed list. This is not in any paired order. You can kind of pick and choose what sounds good to you, pair it up, and that can be a well-balanced snack. If you want that snack to go even further, if you're like, not quite enough, you could always add a non-starchy vegetable to it. But I will highlight here that vegetables do not make a snack in and of themselves, and it's because they have hardly any calories. The snack, for anything to be satisfying, there must be a level of caloric intake. So if you're just trying to snack on carrots and you're thinking that's gonna get you to lunch, I'm sorry, but that's not gonna do the trick. You actually have something with calories, so you can have some ranch with those carrots, you can have some hummus with those carrots, but we can't just nom down on some veggies and expect to make it to the next meal. We got to have those calories. But vegetables make a great assistance to everything else if we really want to make sure we're feeling fully satisfied. Quickly on eating out, because I know this happens a lot. We all do it. I do it. I love eating out. If we're talking fast food, here's just some tips and things to focus on. So when it comes to your protein options, try as much as possible to always choose grilled over fried. Grilled stuff is usually going to be your leaner meats. You'll avoid a lot of excess fat. While yes, we want fat in our meals, fried foods, a lot of fat. So if you're going for if you have a weight management goal in mind, grilled over fried will always save you a lot on the calorie front. Stick to leaner options: chicken, turkey, lean brisket if you could find it. Buns, any kind of bread assembly item. If you can find whole wheat, get it. This doesn't necessarily just apply to fast food joints. This is also sit-down restaurants too. If a whole wheat or whole grain option for a bun or something is available, you can go for that because again, more fiber, more protein, which means it'll be more filling. For sides, try to look for a not explicitly refined carbohydrate side. Fries, I know, is usually the standard. Look for side salads, look for fruit, look for vegetables. Bill Miller's, oddly enough, great example. You can get grilled chicken, some other kind of lean meats. You can grab a side potato salad, can be the carb. They have vegetables like green beans and coleslaw, which are non-starchy vegetables. So you can actually get something quite well balanced. But look for stuff like that as opposed to just the more refined carb sides. Again, if available. I understand you can't do this everywhere. I can't go to Whataburger and get you a super well-balanced, low-calorie meal. Some places it's just not possible. So when it comes to drinks, this is something that can always be applied. Always focus on 0-calorie beverages. If you're looking for weight management, this is one of the easiest things you can do for yourself. Liquid calories, they're not satisfying because they're not contributing to volume satisfaction. They're just contributing a lot of calories, and liquid calories will just go through you real quick because you don't get that signal in your brain of I've had this amount of calories because it's corresponded to this amount of volume. It's no, this is a lot of calories in a smaller volume. So go for those 0-calorie beverages, diet sodas, diet lemonade like Chick-fil-A has, water, unsweet tea. If you're not a fan of unsweet tea, you can use artificial sweeteners if you like those to still get that sweet taste without getting all the calories that go with it. So just some tips for when you're out there in the wild world of eating out. It's an unfortunate truth that our food environment with eating out is just very calorically dense. So these are some strategies you can use to kind of guard against that. Just some options where you can get some balanced stuff. This is by no means an exhaustive list. Chick-fil-A, you can get a grilled chicken sandwich. They'll allow you to sub out the fries for either the fruit cup or the kale salad, which makes a good substitution. Get a 0-calorie beverage, and that's actually a really solid, well-balanced meal. And it's convenient. Subway, same thing. You can get whole wheat bread, you can get lean meats, get all the veggies that you like, get some mayo or something avocado, I don't know. Bill Miller's, like I mentioned, of course, Jason's Deli, Super Salad. There's other things out there, not an exhaustive list, but just know it's possible. And of course, a lot of us have really, really busy lives. There's families, there's kids, there's other jobs, there's all sorts of things. There's a lot of factors that go into life. And while this is a generalized presentation, just quick plug, this is bread and butter of dietitians. We love to sit down and figure out your particular circumstances and what's going on in your life So how can we work all of these principles and these things in a way that's going to work for you? So if you're sitting here thinking like, cool, like I'm liking a lot of these things, like I just really want to know a little more specifics about like what I can do given these circumstances, like make an appointment with one of our dietitians, and it's like we light up working with you on this kind of stuff because it's a ton of fun to figure out how to make things practical that are going to work for y'all. Sometimes meal preparation services are an answer for some people if you have the means, and it's going to make a big difference in your mental health, in your stress levels, and an investment in your food and investment, this could be considered an investment in yourself and in your overall health. If this is something on the table for you that would be affordable and would change things, go for it. A lot of times you have options to go in and choose like based on dietary preference, based on like, I want well-balanced meals. A lot of these things are getting a lot better at allowing you to get more well-balanced meals. And it's just, you just pay the premium for that convenience. So some options here. And kind of back to the same argument on time and investment. Sometimes curbside is a really good, simple thing that while there's a little bit of a fee that goes with it, saves you time on grocery shopping. It can help you avoid impulse purchasing if you're really prone to that. It's where you know what you're getting, you make the list, you go, you pick it up, you go home. Like sometimes that can make a huge difference. And again, meal prep services and meal delivery services. These are just all involved in the aspect of time, because I know a lot of us don't have nearly as much time as we would like. Why are there only 24 hours in the day? But at the end of the day, I just have to stress this, like, prioritize what is important to you. I personally always make an argument that food should be one of those things, because food is so intimately tied into your ability to function from day to day. Like if you're not well nourished, if you're not well fed, you're going to be lower energy, and things can just, they snowball. So I always encourage food to be a priority, because oftentimes it's just not. It gets put on the back burner. We skip lunch at work. Like we find ourselves irritable, and so often just reintroducing food consistently into the day, focusing on making it balanced, what can just be life-changing in and of itself, even if nothing else around us changes. So that's where I will kind of leave this. As I mentioned before, if you want more specifics of how things can work really well with your particular context, feel free to reach out to us to schedule an appointment with one of our JTA dietitians. You see us in all of our lovely headshots here. We help develop and individualized plans based on medical diagnoses. Because again, this was a general presentation, but if you have medical considerations, we work with those. If you have personal health goals, your likes and your dislikes, your lifestyle and your schedule, we take all these things into consideration in helping you build a plan that'll work for you. Typically, insurance does cover appointments 100%, often with zero copay. Of course, this is subject to policy terms and limits and such. But dietetic services are often billed as preventative, and that's what often makes them fully covered. Of course, if you call to schedule an appointment, you can talk insurance with our admin staff too, and they can double check and all that stuff for you. We do appointments pretty much any way you could want them. We'll call you, we'll do a video conference like this. You can come in person in our office, which are always fun and dynamic. And sometimes we're on site, and I forgot to edit something. But thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed this. I enjoyed talking to my camera a lot. Here's our phone number and our email and our website in case you want to check out those recipes that I mentioned before, or give us a buzz or an email to schedule an appointment. And of course, you can follow us on all the socials, click subscribe, like all that jazz. So yes, let me hop over to the chat and see if we have questions that have popped up, and I want to pull up the other questions too. Heather, are you still there?
I am.
Yay.
So if you guys do have any questions, if you can post them in the chat. There's one that was out there, and I've already answered it. We will email the slides to the presentation to everybody, and they did ask if I can get the slide deck from you, so I can email that too.
Okay, sure. All right, let me poke through the questions real quick. I took a picture, so that was like Let's see. The first one was, what are some good ways to eat healthily without cutting out foods they love? I know I didn't actually answer this one. So I'll kind of just, my answer to that one is that you don't have to cut out foods you love. This is something you'll hear all dietitians say, is like you can always eat the foods you enjoy. When it comes to whatever your particular goals are or your particular restrictions based on medical conditions, there just needs to be an intentional acknowledgement that the frequency or the quantity of intake of those foods will have to change. Like nothing ever has to be fully eliminated, but reduction often is necessitated depending on your goals. So that's what I'll say for that one. Second one was, what can I substitute for the cravings of sweets? I did kind of touch on that one where like higher protein can help with cravings, just consistency of eating across the day, trying to eat something about every 3 to 4 hours or so can help reduce cravings as well. But sometimes there are those times where you're just like, I just want some chocolate and it's not really related to anything else. Like you just like the thing and you just want the thing. If that's the case, just eat the thing, because restriction is the quickest way to like snowball into like all the shame and the binge eating and stuff. Letting things just be on the table and not being completely like restrictive and like no about things will do a lot more for your psychological and mental health and your relationship with food than trying to be very restrictive on certain things. 3, are there any healthy snacks? Kind of covered that with a list of stuff that was in there. Everything on those lists would be considered quote unquote healthy. I would just say like balance your carbs with your fats or your proteins. Try to choose mostly whole foods, and that'll get you there. Number 4, is this good for diabetic people? Again, this is general presentation. As far as diabetes, it's going to be more attention to carbs. That is definitely something that can be addressed more with a one-on-one appointment with one of our dietitians. 5, carbs versus non-carbs. I did talk about carbs a bit. I wasn't quite sure what this was going for, but we did talk about what are carbs and then the other things. All the other things are not carbs. If you're here and you have a little more clarification on that question, drop it in the chat. Happy to give more details on that. Tips for vegetarians, that was in there. There's substitutes for ingredients with dietary financial restrictions. I think I covered that. Did not cover gluten. That is particular. Wheat, rye, barley are the things that have to be avoided. Unfortunately, you find those in many, many, many things. That again would be something better, more in depth in a one-on-one appointment. Let's see.
There's a quick question. What do you think about the use of B vitamins? I've heard it helps with weight loss. Do you know anything about that?
So B vitamins are, metabolically speaking, they're involved in the production of energy, but B vitamins are like a 0-calorie thing. So like, I think the argument there is because B vitamins are in the energy producing pathway that more of them will equate to like more energy expenditure, which is not necessarily the case. As far as weight loss, this is kind of touching on energy expenditures. So perhaps, I know nothing about the research on this. This is just like, I'm just kind of going with kind of an educated guess that is touching on energy expenditure, which physical activity is going to be a much more effective way to enhance energy expenditure than taking B vitamins. If you were to change nothing else but start taking B vitamins, maybe you might fidget a little bit more. Maybe you might expend a few more calories that way. It's going to be much more productive to have some kind of intentional physical activity during the day or looking for ways to just move around more in that regards. Otherwise, with weight loss, overall reduction in calorie intake. Because at the end of the day, it is always going to be calories in versus calories out, despite there being a ton of nuance in that equation. That is kind of what it ends up at the end of the day, but that's where I think it's coming from with B vitamins. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. I think I was almost through all of them on here. There's a question on snacking on fruits. Is there a particular fruit that's good for you to eat anytime throughout the day? That's gonna be whatever fruit you like. There are some fruits that are lower fiber than others, so they'll like fill you up a little more. But at the end of the day, again, medical conditions notwithstanding, if there's a fruit you enjoy, any fruit is a great choice. Like I always vote mangoes. What are the best vegetables to eat that will fill you up? Any of the non-starchy vegetables, just again, not by themselves, carbs, protein, fat, and veggies. Better to eat fresh or frozen fruits or veggies. I did cover that. They're all great, canned, fresh, frozen, no difference. Go with what's convenient, go with what's affordable, go with what you like. This was more of a question on like breakfast. Oh, are yogurts with granola and fruit mixed in good breakfast choices? Yes, just with the yogurt, try to get a yogurt that's not like super high in added sugar. Too Good, number two, Too Good is a good brand. Oikos, Dannon Light and Fits are all good ones that are going to be like either no added sugar or low added sugar. Plain Greek yogurt also works, mixing in the granola. So the yogurt's protein, the granola is carbs, fruit carbs as well. You could add some seeds on that for some fat and good to go on breakfast. Interested in meal prep, but I don't want to get bored with meals. What's the best and quickest types of things to eat that provide enough protein, don't weigh you down and make you feel sleepy after eating? Kind of very indirectly addressed that. Protein, just look for those higher protein sources. If you're more vegetarian, of course, keep in mind the protein content from your carb and fat sources too. As far as not feeling like weighed down and like sleepy after eating, that's more common with foods that are a little more highly processed, especially with carbs. When we have like a higher carb intake that are like fast digesting carbs, so the types of carbs like donuts and pastries and like white breads and white pastas and stuff, the carbs just digest and absorb really quickly. And so that's that quick rise in the blood sugar and then the consequential quick drop. That's often what leads us to feeling like sleepy. As far as the feeling weighed down, that's usually a really high fat meal that makes us feel kind of like, there's just a lot of fat and then a lot of calories. So often just the total number of calories in the meal can make you feel like very, as far as like weighed down, and a higher intake of refined carbohydrates can lead to more of that sleepy effect because of that quick absorption and consequential fast drop in blood sugar. So the balance of stuff we were talking about here with the particular foods mentioned, because of those carbs with more water, fiber, protein being slower digesting, that can help avoid the sleepiness. And the fat sources being from more whole food sources of fat. And that you would just have to be kind of a little intentional on. Try to avoid fried stuff. Oils and fried things are a really easy way that a ton of fat gets added to meals, and that can make you feel weighed down. So just being mindful of that. I hope that answers that question adequately. Any other questions?
If you have any other questions, if you can post them in the chat.
Or if you want to pop off mute and ask, you can do that too.
So no, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. So we will go ahead and conclude the presentation, and we do appreciate everyone joining. And
Yes,
hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon and 4th of July next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.